president shared this video of these doctors supporting hydroxychloroquine and spreading some other misinformation about the coronavirus. It was a late night retweet, so it was sort of in the dead of night when, a lot of people maybe weren't paying attention, but it was sort of part of this pattern that he has where he himself may not tweet these things, but he retweets these very controversial and questionable things. And in this case, it was kind of particularly jarring because, the White House had worked to sort of reset the messaging and reset the strategy and how the president was approaching the pandemic. He was out giving these briefings more regularly. He was sort of reestablishing himself as the face of their response. And then he went and shared this video, and then that became the thing that everyone was talking about, was that he apparently was endorsing, this group of doctors who were in favor of hydroxychloroquine, which is not really proven to be an effective treatment for the coronavirus. This one doctor made some statements questioning the use of masks, which, experts have said is one of the best ways to prevent the spread of the virus. So, and then the president kind of, dug in and essentially defended the people in this video, saying that, he was just kind of sharing their opinion and wanted to put the information out there. So it's just kind of another example of the president, sharing these kind of problematic views and these views that undercut the very people in his administration who are out there trying to put out accurate information. So he's certainly making their jobs harder, and he's just kind of, further muddying his own response to this pandemic that people are really going to judge him on leading up to November.
So looking at this HarrisX poll data about President Trump sharing videos of hydroxychloroquine, we see almost 2/3, 59% of Americans disapproving of the decision. And it really looks like this becomes a bit of a partisan litmus test, where there's huge differences between Democrats and Republicans, with only 30% of Democrats versus 82% of 30% of Republicans versus 82% of Democrats disapproving of the decision. So I think this is sort of kind of becoming just another way of saying that you like the president or dislike the president. I do think Americans are looking for solutions to the coronavirus pandemic, but given the controversial nature of this particular drug, it doesn't seem to be something that's necessarily playing well with the American public.
The one doctor in particular has gotten a lot of attention. Stella Emanuel has gotten a lot of attention for her conspiratorial, views on medicine. The Daily Beast reported that, she believes that some medicine comes from alien DNA, that some sexually transmitted diseases come from interactions with demonic spirits. So she certainly has some questionable views, and, that she was out here talking about the effects of hydroxychloroquine kind of aligned with the president, who has for months sort of tried to argue in favor of using hydroxychloroquine. So it was sort of, a convenient alignment there, and that's likely what led the president to seeing this video and to sharing this video. But she certainly has sort of a wider problematic history of statements that just kind of further leads to criticism of kind of how the president is using his platform to spread information. And, he's admitted himself in interviews that, his retweets kind of get him into trouble. And this was just sort of the latest example of that happening.
He's also made videos saying that doctors make medicine using DNA from aliens, and that they're trying to create a vaccine to make you immune from becoming religious.
She was on air along with many other doctors. They were big fans of hydroxychloroquine, and I thought she was very impressive in the sense, but I know nothing about her.
Masks don't work.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Last week you said masks. Last week, well, real quick. Last week you said
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
The president shared on both Facebook and Twitter, he shared footage from an interview he did with Fox News where, he was speaking about his desire to see schools reopen, and he spoke about how his claim that children are virtually immune, is what he said, from the coronavirus, which is not the case. There are children who have gotten this disease, who have had, bad symptoms. There are, while not too many, there are some children who have died from this. So we saw for the first time Facebook actually took down this post that was originally posted by the Trump campaign's account and then shared by the president. And this was the first time that Facebook had taken down one of these posts that the president shared, citing misinformation about the coronavirus. A few hours after that, Twitter did the same thing and actually temporarily suspended the Trump campaign account from tweeting anything until it took down this video of the president spreading this misinformation about kids and the coronavirus. So, with Facebook especially, it's notable because it's the first time they've done this. Twitter has sort of, in the last several months, kind of, to some degree at least, stepped up its enforcement of, policing when the president spreads inaccurate information, whether it's about the coronavirus, or we saw them do it with mail-in voting. It's flagged one of his tweets for making threats against protesters. So it's definitely, it's the latest example of these social media platforms being more willing to, flag the president's content and police when he's spreading inaccurate information, especially about the coronavirus, since Twitter and Facebook have kind of taken some criticism for this, for allowing this kind of misinformation, not just from the president, but from all kinds of accounts, from spreading during this pandemic. So it'll be interesting to see if they continue to do this, since the president has kind of played a little loose with the facts from time to time on this.
I think it speaks to how political operatives have increasingly disregarded facts as important in political debate, and how the idea of some sort of external impartial truth is no longer necessarily a given in political conversation. And if the truth is inconvenient, we're seeing people essentially throwing it out the window. And this is really the challenge that news organizations and social media organizations face, is when they're reporting on people saying things that are potentially untrue, how do they make that decision, and how do they sort of flag that information? And who do they sort of rely upon as those people who do have the sort of the knowledge base or the understanding to sort of signify what is and is not factually correct? In this case, for instance, Trump talking about young people being immune, there's certainly lots of data of young people having coronavirus, but there's also lots of scientists saying that's not true. However, that's a politically damaging fact. So you're seeing Republicans sort of saying that, well, it's biased. The truth is that there isn't really a lot of allegiance to hard facts until there's a penalty at the ballot box. So, I think what we're going to see this fall is, if the Republicans suffer some major defeats, you'll probably see the Republican Party move back towards sort of a more of a, agreement on sort of what reality is. But if they don't, this sort of idea that you can litigate what reality is going to continue.